right. If let's see, I know some people are on camera, some people aren't. It'd be great if in the chat y'all just put where you're calling from and what ministry you're with, if you're able to. Just go to chat and just make sure you hit everyone and panelists. Um, or
Since it's a meeting, it should
it's a
be set to
meeting. Okay,
yeah,
great. So it's already
it
set
should
to
be set
everyone.
already.
Amazing. Amazing. So we sent out emails to everybody asking, getting questions for our Q&A, and we got a total of 2 questions. So that means y'all need to step it up. And so you're going to need to be thinking of some questions. Surely you came on here wondering something. And if you didn't, start wondering, or else it's going to be very short Q&A, or it'll just be the Eileen and Russell show, which would be entertaining.
I mean, it would be
Trust
a great
me.
show.
It would be a great show. It might even be a great show if we don't have any questions. But um, yeah, so that's where we are right now. Um, let's see. I'm looking at our list of folks here in
Welcome,
the chat.
Logan.
Hey, Logan.
Hello.
Were you on our meeting 30 minutes ago? An hour ago? No? I didn't think
Stand
so.
up.
It's weird. It wasn't on my calendar.
It's a company meeting.
All coaches.
Yeah.
I was
Somebody's in
like, oh
trouble.
no. I'll try. I'll check
Miguel.
my calendar.
They're
Miguel
just
is
giving you a hard
dedicated.
time.
Miguel's dedicated. He's driving and attending the Q&A. So there needs to be a prize awarded.
As
for
long
that.
as this question isn't about directions.
Yeah. That's so funny. Well, let's see. What time is it? We should probably just get started. Why not? It's 11:07. Um, my name is Russell. I am the CEO of Tailored and founder. And we have Eileen with us. Eileen, you may want to put Tailored so everyone knows. Maybe we should put Tailored on our names.
Sure.
But 'cause it's hard to distinguish that we're hosting. But and then we have Eileen's calling from Kentucky. She's one of our coaches. She actually trains our coaches. And let's see, Jessica is on with us. She's a talented coach, but she actually manages all of our operations. And then Logan, who's not hosting, but we'll probably throw some questions at. Not, I don't know. We'll just see. She's also a coach. She's in South Africa. So, Jessica, let's get started. I think the way we want to do this is we've had a couple of questions submitted. But if you have questions, put them in the chat, and Jessica will just monitor that, and we'll get to them. So
And you
let's
can
get
ask
going.
live too. I mean,
Oh yeah, true. You
yeah.
can just unmute and ask, I suppose.
Yeah, actually, our first question was from Mitch, who I think just hopped on. So, hey,
Yeah.
Mitch.
Hey, Mitch.
And it was such a great question. Okay. I've learned from tailored fundraising that it's like a bus that keeps its course and gives ample opportunity for people to get on for partnership and kingdom impact. How do you approach people that have said no to you or have left you on red previously?
Eileen.
Okay, I'm like, you look like you were going to say something, Russell. I think I would take a couple of different tactics if it were me. I would volunteer an immediate option of why it's happened. Like, hey, I know life is busy and we haven't had a chance to connect since my last message, but just wondering if you'd like to get a chance to, and sort of take that responsibility on yourself from the beginning. So instead of saying you didn't reply to me or you didn't get back to me or any of those things, saying, I know life is busy, any chance we could connect? Or if it's a phone call, just that type of vibe that just says, hey, it's probably me, message at the wrong time. How can we connect from here? It puts people's guard down.
Yeah. What have you tried, Mitch?
Well, I have gone through only really one round, and that's where I'm at today. So I'd be going in through my second round after our coaching session. So love any strategy that I can get. So
How
Okay,
many
so
people are in your
you've
coaching?
only sent one message
I've done
so far.
yeah, like this has been I've been fundraising for about a year now, and I'm just on my own, stumbling through fundraising, sending out a letter, following up with an email, getting some interest from people, getting on calls with people, and I've gotten a decent amount of support, but I was curious about the ones that have either straight up told me no, which I was okay with. It's not the right time. But then also, there's been some that have expressed interest at first, but then kind of fell off the map and left me on red. So,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go back around and
right.
follow up this time. But I was curious about some advice you guys have.
Mitch,
Yeah.
when did you start with Tailored? It was just recently, correct?
Correct. I just started. This is my fourth session on
Okay.
Thursday. Will be my fourth session.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so I had an answer. Jessica totally interrupted my thought.
Sorry. I just
Not my
for
fault.
context for you guys to know where he's at in the coaching process, I thought would be
Sure,
helpful.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I know what I was gonna say. So I tell clients or potential clients, because I do a lot of discovery calls, is that um, this is your priority, your number one priority. This is definitely not their number one priority. Doesn't mean they don't care. It doesn't mean they don't want to talk. It's just not their number one priority. So sometimes it's all about just catching them at the right time. And that's why, whatever Eileen or Logan, you can tell us what is like the number of follow-ups. Is it five,
Yeah.
seven?
It's average, I think it's 5. But I do have a question before going into follow-up. You said you send your letter and follow up with an email. But actually one of the things that we find is really important is you send your letter, that intro letter, and actually you follow up with a phone call because it's significantly more personal than sending another email.
Did I hear?
Sorry,
Is that what we heard, Mitch?
sorry. I meant to say that I sent a letter, like an email letter, and then I
Yeah.
followed with
Okay, you follow up with a phone call or text.
a text for interest. So I'm gonna definitely do phone calls this round.
Okay, great. Great. And you look confused.
Yeah, can I add a comment?
Sure. Who's
Absolutely.
talking?
Yeah, so the key thing, Mitch, is psychologically, I don't know if it's your own voice or Satan's voice, but there's this voice that says they're not interested. But it's not true. They are interested. Their life is just too crazy busy. So like they're saying, it just takes a lot of phone calls, texts, follow-ups. And but in your mind, like they genuinely, I'm a full support, but in your mind there's this, like, they're not interested, so you're hesitant to reach out, but actually they are interested, and they will be tremendously blessed if they join your team. It's a wonderful investment, better than the stock market. So you're like, they're interested, and this will be a blessing to them. So for me, it was a lot of psychological. I just had to realize that those are lies. That I just need to push through, because people do want to, will be blessed, and do care, but their lives a bit out of control.
Yeah, Ben, those are really great points because sometimes, many times, we like to answer for people before they give us an answer. We like to decide for them,
Yeah.
and that's never fair, to decide whether or not. And that's not. Well, I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Mitch, but that's kind of led me down that path of let's not decide for somebody. That's when they're like people say, "Well, I don't have any more contact," and I said, "Well, let's not think about because it's easy to go down this road. Let's not think about who we think will give. Let's think about who needs to hear about this ministry."
Yeah.
And those are two different things because when we think about who will give, we're deciding for them. Um, and as I'm sure everyone on this call can attest, the people you think are going to give many times don't. The people you think would never give or would never care, they can be the biggest fans of the ministry. So, um, going back to your original question, Mitch, I think now, as long as you're really gauging interest, is this something you'd be interested in? We need to be really clear about interest. Not, we don't use words like, would you be willing to meet? Everyone's fairly willing to meet. It's, would you be interested in, meeting about a clear financial partnership or what that would look like? Just as long as we're being pretty specific about that, I'm sure your coach has worked with you on that. And then the number of times for following up and then the different ways for following up. I think you're on the right track.
Do you guys have the other part of his question was for people who actually do say no and then like coming back around to them? We do have a great resource, overcoming the 9 no's. Do you guys have anything you'd like to share about that? We could share this resource after. Maybe it'd be
Definitely
helpful.
share the resource. I don't remember all the reasons, all the 9 no's.
I think the resource will tell you all about the different 9 no's. But I think a really important thing is when they say no, and your understanding of that. Everybody has their reasons. Sometimes they feel the need to tell you all about their reason. They don't need to justify it to you. It's okay to say no, but I would ask them at that point, at some point in that conversation, hey, I completely understand. Life is, whatever they said, difficult at this time or expensive, whatever it is. Would you mind if I reached out to you again next year, maybe? Or is there a time of year that would be a good chance to read? Can't get my words out. A good chance to reach out to you. Some families budget and plan their tithing once a year and then follow that through for a year, or have a specific ministry type thing that they're involved in, that's what they're looking to be part of. So asking those questions at that stage let you know when it would be comfortable for you to reach out again.
Eileen, would you say something along the lines of, I completely understand, if it's okay, I might just reconnect next year, see where you're at. I maybe
Yeah.
not even ask the question, just kind of say, hey, or maybe say if that's okay,
Yeah.
something along those lines.
I think I would, unless they've told me, for me at least, if they've said, oh, we've already budgeted for the year, so we won't be able to do this year. I said, that's great. What time of the year would be the right time for me to connect with you?
Yeah, for sure.
Gives them a chance to clarify that they do want to, or if that was just a no, we're not going to go that direction, you get a clear answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, this is such a plug. Before we do the next question, Jessica, I want everyone to know, and you should have gotten emails about this, but we have a webinar next week that is completely in Spanish. And if you know any missionaries that only speak Spanish or that's their first language and would like to come to this webinar, would you please let them know about it? And if you need information on it and you don't have it, just put something in the chat and we can get you the info. But we will be sending another email out to our email list about it. Okay, what's next? What's up next?
What are some metrics as guidelines for how many people you need to contact in each wave in order to get a certain amount of meetings?
I'll partly answer, and then Eileen or Logan, I can let we all do whatever. You got to think about your time. So how many am I gonna send out in a wave is what we call it. Depends on how many you can follow up with, right? So we're talking 5 follow-ups. And 5 follow-ups in general. So we send out 10, we get 2 responses. We send out another 10 the next week. That means we have 18 people to follow up. We get 4 responses that week, or 6 responses. Another 10, we have 22, I think, or 32, one of those things. No, probably 22 to follow up with. So it does build up. Follow-ups shouldn't take all that long. We're talking text messages, a phone call with a voicemail, potentially. Hopefully you're having a conversation and scheduling something, but do think about your time, as far as how do you know how many people to send out. It's how much time do you have, how much, like that week, how much time do you have until you need to be fully funded. So those are the things that answers the question, how many people should I reach out to? We do have calculations, right? Eileen, do we have calculations on how many? It varies. Obviously, it varies. Like your contacts and that they're going to respond better than contacts that you don't know as well, and contacts that you have that you don't really know. So,
yeah, I think
that's
it really
the end of
depends
my
on,
answer.
Yeah, I think it depends on the demographic you're working with. If you're working with college, like if you're in college or in college ministries, a lot of the people will be in that environment, right? Especially if you're that age where you've just finished and you're going in, then the people you reach out to will have more time because they don't have other life commitments that occupy them. But if you are a person with a family and you're living in an area where all of your contacts are that age, you have jobs, responsibilities, volunteer roles, finding a time to get together with you will feel more difficult for them, because I can book you out in the next 3 weeks. But what happens is our contacts say, "Oh, I couldn't fit it all in the next couple of weeks. Could you call me in a few weeks?" And we say yes. But actually, then the next couple of weeks will be filled in, because that's how we work. Most people's calendars book out a couple of weeks in advance. So actually, at that point, I would say, I realize you're busy, and yeah, getting together after the 2 weeks is no problem. Why don't we put something in the calendar now? So you may be putting something in the calendar for 3 or 4 weeks away, but it guarantees your place.
But do you have
That's
any
for,
sense? Do you have any
sorry?
sense of like how many contact? I think the question is like, do we have any sense of how many people we need in the pipeline for them to get meetings? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think this is what I figured out putting in the information I have. I believe you get a response from approximately 60 people. I think there's always a percentage of people that just either say right off, "I'm not interested. This is not something I'd like to have a conversation with about." But 60 people is your general opportunity to move forward.
Where are you coming up with that number?
60%.
Oh, not 60 people, 60%.
60%.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have 100 people, it would be 60 people. If you have 10 people, it'd be 6. I often tell
That
people
would
from
respond.
respond with hopes of going forward. So there will be some that don't respond, and there will be some that respond with no thank you, or some variation of that. And then there's usually about 60% that have some variation of sure, I can get together after the fact, or when like you have to have those numerous follow-ups to get them to the space of
Right.
actually having the meeting.
Right.
But if we do it all by, one of the problems I'm seeing with a lot of people right now is we want to text. We don't want to make a phone call. So we email a letter, and then we text, or we WhatsApp, or we Signal. We have all these options. We send them a DM, all these options to have a conversation with a potential partner without using our voice. But in actuality, if you want to connect with somebody, that makes you stand out. That makes them feel seen. So making the time, although I know it takes longer and it has to be at specific times of the day, taking those moments makes them know that you value them differently. And I think has quite a big standing in how much communication you'll get back.
Our coaches have different opinions on this.
I do. And they're entitled to their opinion, right or wrong.
Right. Some of our coaches are huge fans of texting in the qualification.
Yeah.
That's
also depends on age.
Yeah, it depends
Right,
on
right.
age and culture for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, and we always say segment your contacts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a form of segmenting, like who's going to respond, you know, maybe better to text. You know, sometimes one of our coaches just is wanting a thumbs up or thumbs down in some respects um on their text messages. So they're different, varying ways
Yeah.
of doing it. Hopefully that answered the question in some capacity. But if you're going to get that kind of response rate that Eileen talked about, 60%, that's a little higher than I thought you'd say. Um, the what you're communicating and the way you're communicating needs most likely, and we don't use things like always and whatever, but
Yeah.
most likely needs to be in a pretty specific way. So I might look at some resources on our blog or ebooks that we've written on specific language that we use to just kind of response rate.
Can I make one more suggestion? I think it's easy to send a message and always say something like, would you like to get together? It's a yes or no question that can feel complicated because they know the conversation is about something else. So I would say ask them the question in various points. Hey, I like, especially if you're texting or messaging in some way. I hope you received my email. Um, would love to hear what you thought about the ministry I'm doing. Would love to get together with you and talk about becoming, being one of my partners. And you can say it as simply as that, but actually adding another question right after that says, let me know what would work better for you. Is time restriction, would Zoom be better or would you like to meet in person? And giving them a second question quite quickly afterwards gives them one more thing like, oh, I could just do this on Zoom. Oh, maybe I'll do that. And all of a sudden their mind isn't like, oh no, it just gives them somewhere to go with it.
Yeah. I've got an interesting comment from Jim in the chat about meeting with 100 people in 100 days. 60 people. What was it? Hold on. We're told to reach out to 200. 100 will meet. 50 will give. That's kind of standard, like missionary fundraising numbers.
But
With
look at
us,
the
that's
end.
not. Yeah, 60 people.
60%.
60% gave, but in our experience, like we would hope that you're not meeting with anyone who won't give. And the reason is because we call it qualifying. So we're meeting with people who we know are interested in giving and not meeting with anyone that we know is not interested, which means you have to ask. So like, that's why when we ask people if they like to meet, we're saying, would you be interested in meeting about, potentially a potential financial partnership and prayer partnerships with the ministry? So that they not just know what the meeting is about, but we are asking if they are interested in that specific thing.
Yeah.
But that also means that the first communication you send and the subsequent communications before you ask that question need to be very on point, need to be very clear and compelling in some regards. So I think that's a great response on that 60 number. It's a good work. 100 meetings in 100 days is, for an introvert, sounds insane. But
I mean, that sounds pretty intense for anyone. That's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
wow.
But there you go. I mean, it made it happen.
I think someone had their hand up a second ago. William, was that you? Okay.
Yeah.
I know you folks don't know me, so let me introduce myself.
Sure.
I just got off the treadmill, so I'm not exactly presentable.
You look amazing for having been on the treadmill.
Yeah. Well, I had to cut it short to make the meeting. So my name is Bill Housley, and I've been with Youth for Christ for about 45 years now, maybe a little longer. I can't keep track. And I recently retired into what we call legacy staff. And before that, I was the director of global engagement, where we send out, I think, 95 to 100 staff around the world. Now, regarding and I hate to, I don't like self-promotion, but I just recently wrote a book about fundraising, and it's actually a two-part book. It's the first part is a story about a young couple that meets, and they have two different personality types, and they go through the fundraising process and make it to the field. And then, as a bonus book, a few years back, I asked the staff the best things they do about fundraising. And so, in the back of that book is what I call the shortest little book about asking for money, where I present just a few time-tested principles from the staff, what worked best for them in terms of continuing to raise funds. One of the points of that book is to set a inverted thinking goal. Sometimes when we hear no, we can feel like a failure. We can feel rejected. And that's one of the problems with getting a no. However, if you invert that thinking and say your goal is to get 100 no's, you'll never get to 100 no's, by the way. Then a no becomes a success. And so rather than failing, you've succeeded by getting a no, and you can put it in your tally sheet and say, okay, 99 more no's to go. And it inverts your thinking so that you can be successful. So there you go. And if anybody is interested in there's an ebook version for, I think, $3.99 on Barnes and Noble. I make 50 cents, so it's not about money.
I don't know if that made sense to anybody, but that makes a lot of sense to me as far as thinking goes. Because you're gonna have no's. And honestly, honestly, what you're doing is I don't know, give me a second to say that, to figure out how I'm gonna say it. It's a win to find out who on all these people that you have. It's a win to find out who God is moving in towards this and who he's not. And so both are wins, right? Because you're not trying to convince people to be part of your ministry. You're there to see if this is something, a passion that God's given them already. So I really do. I actually really love that thinking. I had never really thought about that. Had Eileen or Logan, had y'all thought about that before?
I mean, we do use that in our communication, that they're aimed toward, if you know you have a certain amount of no's coming, we don't say it quite the same way, but they're going to happen. So just put them in your mind
Right.
as keep a tally, they're coming, but you never reach 100.
Yeah. I just think it's an interesting way to frame, because mindset is such huge. Sometimes for some people, it's a majority of, how successful or what kind of experience they have in fundraising. And so I think, like, how do we look at no's positively? Then you're not you're dreading less, because you're gonna have some anxiety and some low level anxiety about making phone calls, right? Or whatever. But yeah,
We
no,
also
great.
try to encourage clients too to think about, like, if they're saying no to you, we trust that God is calling them to something else.
Sure.
And I think that's a really helpful way to frame it.
That's good. I'm just really in love with that whole concept. Thanks for sharing that, Bill.
Works.
All right, we have another mindset question. Miguel says, I struggle with seeing people as potential donors compared to missionary partners. So it was more of a statement than a question, but like, how can we move on from that train of thought to viewing them as partners?
Can you explain the
Yeah,
question
can you say
again?
it again?
Miguel, do you want to explain more fully? You're on
you're on
mute.
mute. I
You're
think
still on mute.
Jessica, you can unmute him yourself if you wanted to.
Let me find it. I think he's frozen now. It's not working.
Okay, we'll come
Okay,
back.
from what I understood, I'm going to go forward, assuming that he's going to come back on and he can interrupt me when he does. If the mindset is seeing them as donors instead of partners, we also have to remember we're not reaching out to people and communicating what we do. We're communicating what God is doing and inviting them to be partners in that with us. It's like when people aim to write this newsletter every 3 months and it's 16 pages and all the colors and all the rest. And we communicate repeatedly what we do, what we've done. This is what our team did. And in actuality, if we want to connect with people on that level and really invite them into partnership with our ministry, we want them to hear what God is doing. And that's not always 16-page newsletter worthy. That's updates regularly, connecting and saying, hey, I met this person at the coffee shop today, and you know what? We just started chatting and they're struggling and life is hard. And would you pray for Jose that I chatted with? Would you pray with me that he's, and that those regular connections of just this is life. Then when you go and present some major ministry meeting you were part of and all these great things, it's still what God is doing. But your partners know you've invited them into full aspects of your ministry, not just the side you want them to see. Because somebody's going to reach out to you and say, hey, I've been praying for Jose. Whatever happened with him? And you have to be like, honestly, I had hoped to see him again, but I haven't seen him since. Or something worse. There could be, but inviting them into that real side of ministry of just the everyday, the nitty gritty makes a huge difference than just communicating what we think is pretty.
If he comes back on, we can revisit the question. And this is not a question that I thought we did. I'm not even sure. I don't know if it's a question for us, but in the chat, we're talking about getting to basically paying candidates or starting them on a salary before they hit 100%. In general, I'm a proponent of that because, we just had a story this morning. One of our coaches, we had a couple that needed to get to $8,000 a month in 2 months. And the thing that unlocked it for them, one of the things that unlocked it for them was leaving their full-time role and fundraising, their full-time job and fundraising full-time. Just operationally, organizationally, if you're going to hire somebody, because at that point, like, they're no longer volunteer raising funds, they're hired and making a salary. Obviously, you're gonna have a job description, you're gonna have, key performance indicators or whatever you want to do. So whether that's in-house or with a company with a partner like Tailored, I think that having a coach to stay focused on what you're doing with 40 hours a week and making sure it's working, I think it's important. But I don't think, yeah. You also, I think you want to evaluate for sure if that step you both believe is going to unlock the success of the rest of the 100%. Is time really what's holding them back? I think that's the question, or a question to ask. Or is it something else, or yeah.
I think it's
Thanks.
a little bit like an alligator. If you put an alligator in a fish tank, it will grow to the size of the fish tank. If you put an alligator in a pond, it will grow to be comfortable in its pond. and such and such. It will grow to the space you give it. If you take a person that has to raise their own financial expectations and they have to do partnership development, and you tell them you have to raise 40%, they will regularly raise 40%. If you tell them they have to raise 80%, they will raise 80%. But if you tell them you have to raise 60% and I'll give you 40%, they think I can live off 60%, so I'll raise 20.
Oh, no. Oh, he's saying for them to go on salary until they get to 100%.
And that's what I'm saying. They don't need to get to 100% because you're going to pay them until they get to 100%.
Yeah, no, I disagree.
Okay.
Because they're getting paid to fundraise.
Oh, but so they're not working? They're just
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah, they
I
quit
thought
their
they were
job.
going about because our
No.
organization, I work with another organization outside of Tailored as my ministry role, and our organization has tried that in some of our fields, and they just pay people for years because they're working.
Oh
They have
no.
no time for their partnership.
No, that
Oh, you
he's
mean
saying
okay.
candidates are onboarding, they get to a certain level, they get to start drawing a salary from what they've raised,
I misunderstood.
or they pay a salary until.
Okay, I'm
But
with you. That
so
makes significantly more sense.
right. So their role is fundraising. They're not in ministry. Well, I said that poorly. Their role is fundraising as ministry right now, not on the field. So does that help, Drew?
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Ready for the next question?
Always.
Let's see if we can
How-
agree on one.
How do you approach friends of 20 to 30 years whom you haven't interacted with for some time, though some still regularly read my prayer letter?
I love this question, and I'll start. We call it sweeping away objections. Usually they're objections in your mind, but any kind of objection that you think someone's going to have, and you don't want to make them up. We don't need to sweep away objections that aren't there, but we always start with the potential objection. So I would say, hey, Susie, I know we haven't talked in over 20 years. I can't believe how long it's been. And then you go into whatever you want to say. This happens a lot on social media, where we say, hey, I know we've never met in person. Or I know we only know each other through family, or whatever we think the objection might be. Then we kind of name that first, and then it's a non-issue for either one of you after that. And it's just, because the person is like, oh, what. So it tends to be a non-issue after that. I don't know if anybody else has a comment about it, but that's my approach in a lot of life.
It's a very effective approach.
Yeah, and it's really simple. Like when I learned how to fundraise from some consultants doing major donor work, that was literally all they said. This is how you handle objections. You just put it out there and then you move on.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Miguel is back with us. Miguel,
yes.
I'm going to unmute you here so that you can share.
Okay, can you hear me? I am closer to the router.
Yeah, we can hear. Where are you calling from?
Great. So I'm calling from Mexico. I'm 3 months into my first mission post, and I'm loving it. And God is
amazing.
Bless me. Yeah, and to get rid of everything and all that stuff with the grace to do so has been amazing. So one of the things that the question that I had sent to Jessica was that there is a part of me that I still have to work through, that whenever I see someone and they're a little bit interested in the missions, or I hear that they have potentially could be a donor, there's a part of me is like, okay, let's connect to them. Like almost, I used to sell my art when I was younger. And so I have this kind of affinity towards people that could buy art. And at the time there was a lot of movement towards just trying to move my way in so that they could buy art. And it wasn't manipulative because they were interested, but at the same time, it was manipulative because I was looking at them as like a potential buyer. So I'm trying to get rid of that part of me, and it's been difficult because whenever I see someone that could potentially be a donor, especially whenever I haven't met my goal yet, I'm getting to that point where I see them and I want to get rid of that. Now, if I could make a comment to that, my solution so far for it has been to do a little work on me, as far as like what does it affect? How does it affect me whenever I see someone that's like that, and it brings out a part of me that I don't like, and those are the things that God's trying to purify. So to even write that down, take it to paper in prayer, has been my thing, but in light of moving towards being more genuine, and but your comments would be fantastic. But that was my question.
No, I think you're working through it in a really healthy way. You know, sometimes it's hard to separate. Gosh, I have a lot to say. I don't think, first of all, I think there's a lot of wonderful things about seeing everybody as a potential partner, not because of the money, but because of giving them the blessing of being generous with what God has given them. And so I think it's amazing that you can see everybody as a potential partner. Now, so I think first of all, just, remind yourself that this ministry is what God is doing, not what you're doing, and that it is good for people to partner with you. Sometimes we have trouble separating how we spend money and the impact that funding could have, right? So the way the ministry funds are spent, which is partly on your salary, I think and this is true for any missionary, you get like, this can feel selfish, right? And self-serving, but you're God's vessel to minister, right? And so it's not about having money for money's sake. It's about inviting people to be generous with what God has given them, us trusting God that He's going to bring the right people to us. We're just looking for those people, right? I feel like it's the same way in evangelism, right? You consider everyone as a potential person to share Jesus with, not so you can, create tally marks of, I shared Jesus with this many people, or this many people came to Jesus because of me. You do it because it's a blessing to them. It's life-changing for them. So it's the same in my mind. And that's kind of where it happens, right? And I love that you're journaling about it and all of that. But in my mind, it's very similar. We are sharing what God is doing and the blessing that He can be. And, in our experience, the people who partner, many people, not everybody, but many people who partner with a missionary, they are so thankful that they were approached, because they are very passionate. God has given them a passion for the kind of ministry that you're in. And so they're very thankful. So I think just looking at it as, I'm not looking for me, I'm looking for God, and yes, we're not saying who can be a donor. We're just saying who needs to hear about this ministry. So I hope that helps. But mindset,
Absolutely.
I think you're on the right track. I think you're on the right track, Miguel.
Thank you.
Thanks for being honest with us. Appreciate that.
All right. The only other question we've had come through, you guys have answered this a bit. I struggle with asking friends for support. When they say no, it becomes awkward. How do you know when to ask? So again, handling no's with friends specifically, what would you guys say?
I think it's really easy to worry about that, but actually, at least with the process that we work through with Tailored, you're giving them the opportunity to decide up front if they want to have the conversation.
Yeah,
We're
right.
we're giving them the intro letter. You then calling them for appointment. They know right up front what this particular conversation will be. One great way, if you really worry about it, one great way is when a friend says something to you like, "Oh, explain to me what you do." If you're worried about that conversation, don't let yourself be put on the spot. Say, "You know what? I'd love to have this conversation with you. Let's enjoy our time here. Let's make a plan. When would you like to meet to have that conversation?" Just draw it back in so it's not all tied to it. They'll know with things like that their relationship with you is of value also. So they won't feel, oh, they're just asking, they're just asking me for money. They'll understand the difference between inviting them to partner and inviting them to be part of your ministry, and seeing how that friendship intertwines, but it's not solely for that.
I also think in that situation, like if you have this quick conversation that's 3 or 4 minutes, then in their mind, it's like we've had the conversation, right? And so we don't need to meet. I already know. But that wasn't
And you
really
didn't.
the yeah, and you didn't really get to share in a way that you could invite. So I think in that case, especially Eileen, like saying like, oh gosh, I have so much to say. Can we maybe like so much I want to share with you? I think you'd be really excited about it. Um, I mean, if you want to share, like, hey, the purpose of the ministry is this. I have so much to share with you. Can we schedule a time to grab coffee? Next, we're looking for people to partner with us in prayer and financial giving. So anyway, I think that could be really helpful.
All right, we do have another question. What are some ways tailored fundraising teaches about asking partners to invest more?
We have an ebook called "Get More Funding Without Adding More Donors." What's it called? If you go to the footer in our website, there's a link for ebooks, and um, so the details are in there. But it's about something called a communication cycle. So um, basically, once people have become financial partners, we put them in a communication cycle to where we are making personal touches. We're also getting, YMADs, you made a difference. So we're telling the financial partner how their giving is making a difference, what God is doing through that. And we keep doing that until it's time to bring them out of, when you're looking at the cycle, bringing them out of over here on the right side and moving over to the left side where we re-identify a problem that we're solving together. And then talking about the solution and inviting them to be a part of that financially by increasing their giving or giving a special gift. So that's the basic premise of moving people by increasing. If anyone's going to increase, there needs to be a reason. Usually it's, and sometimes, okay, let's just take the hardest example. Okay, let's just say your expenses, right? Because it just happens, right? Insurance changes, right? Let's just say the insurance changed. I need to raise more funds. How do we connect that to ministry? Because how do we connect that to impact? Because fundraising is not about the way you spend money. It's about what that funding is accomplishing, right? So the fact that insurance is going up can be said, but it's not the reason why you're fundraising. The reason why you're fundraising is because to sustain ministry moving forward, we're needing to increase the funding. Because if you can't raise this, then ministry is going to could stop or slow down. Am I communicating that okay, Eileen? My thought. I'm not even sure I completed the thought. Oh, Eileen's cutting out, so that means Logan has to. Because I have to have. Oh no, there she is. You just looked out, Logan.
I think we should hear what Logan has to say, but I think you're very clear, Russell.
Okay. Well, you cut out and I have to have somebody to bounce off of. And so it's like, oh, Logan, like
Yeah.
batter's up, batter's up.
No, and just to add on, I think in personal experience, either with me or with clients, I 100% agree. I think it's almost for me, I've used end of year campaigns for myself, for others, as good opportunities for that. And it's for me taking an assessment of the past year and maybe identifying some key problems that I'm seeing that our ministry is addressing, and helping people do that as well. And that kind of just reigniting that vision, like you're saying, Russell, like it's connecting, and I think it's really helpful for our partners, because they have an ongoing awareness of the need and the issues that we're facing. That it's not just you've joined and you can kind of what's the word? Kind of float on by for years and years, but the invitation to continue to invest more is happening as they grow in their awareness, as we communicate awareness of the growing need, because there is a growing need that needs growing partnership. So I 100% agree. And I found it to be very successful, and just really not just getting the money, but having people buy in to the fact that
Right.
they are partners in this and there's more need. And so how can they be a part of helping meet that need, and not just saying, hey, I need a little bit more money. Can you increase by 10, 15%, but really presenting that need so they can take that ownership. Just to affirm what you're saying, I've seen it to be really successful for myself and others.
Yeah, and I know part of the question is like some specific language. I'm sure I haven't read it in a minute, but I'm sure there's specific ask language in that book, in that ebook. So definitely take a look at that.
Drop the link in the chat to our webpage with the ebooks on it, so you guys can check those out. All right. Do you guys have any other questions?
You're amazing. We appreciate you guys so much, and the connection we have with you. We haven't pitched coaching or anything, but if you're in a season where you are fundraising, and you have goals, having a coach can make an exponential difference. Would love to chat with you about it. There's a little link. If you want to schedule a time with me. Is that me or is that?
That's yours.
Okay.
We also have several past clients on this call. So just so you guys know, we do continue coaching for past clients. So you can hop on a call, talk through that with Russell.
Yeah, if you want one session, 2 sessions, we do all kinds of customized coaching for past clients. So
we do have one hand up, Jessica. John's got his hand up.
We do. John?
Maybe he's just saying hi.
Yeah.
And Eileen, a question about epistle in the chat, which I know you'd love to answer probably, because you're.
Can you see who reads?
Biggest fan.
Sorry.
I do love
trouble getting off mute. I was just going to make a comment about, I forget what it's called, but the web software that you introduced maybe a month ago.
Planner?
Okay, Planner?
Yes, Planner, sorry. Just wanted to thank you for that. That's been super helpful for me to be able to visually kind of see everything and then organize everything. So thanks a ton for that.
Absolutely. John, are you a client or you just hopped on Planner?
No, I'm Eileen's coachee.
Okay, got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
The Planner has really been helpful for me. So thank you, Russell.
You're welcome. I'm very glad to hear that. Okay, is that it?
Eileen, did you want to say anything about epistle?
I did. I put it in the chat, but I will say one of the wonderful things about it is you can see who's reading it, that they're all being delivered well, but you can also react individually to them. So they can message you and say they're praying, and you can actually respond repeatedly to them through epistle, which is a great way because they can get an app on their phone and stuff like that. So it's a great service. I know there's various ones. I've heard from clients there's various free ones. let me just tell you, I don't know these people. I know nothing about them, but what I do know is it's a missionary family that put it together, a gentleman and his family, and it's worth every penny, and it's going back into God's work. So you're not paying like, some big conglomerate to do this. It's $14. It's gone up from 12 to 14. And it is a well-used $14.
Who's Frankie? He's a good friend of mine. We
Oh,
became
is he?
friends after we became friends after he started at Crystal because I love it and I just want to get to know it. So
You should let him
we
know he owes me shares.
chairs.
Shares. I over promote them. I think they're such a great service.
Oh yeah, we promote them all the time and we made zero money off of it, which is a
Yes.
shame. We should totally be making money off of it.
We should get shares.
But it is chairs. I thought you said chairs. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway,
Which is often true.
this is now turning into the Eileen and Russell show. It's a great time to close it off.
Yes.
But appreciate you guys so much, and I hope you have a great rest of the week.
It's great to see everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks a lot.